Hi guys, and welcome back. I know we get some weird lighting in this side of the shop. The sun comes up in the wrong place, so sorry about the lighting issues. I can't do anything about that. But if you guys watched the first video on this, this thing here was not returning quickly. You pull the throttle and it would just go back really slowly. Still hanging up, it's a pedal. But it's returning quickly now. And all I've done was take this off and soaked Marvel Mystery Oil in there for 2 days. So let's see if that works. Start with that. Yuck. Oil and diesel oil everywhere. It's just, it's fun. So we had a whole bunch of fun trying to get this thing to run, just to get it to start. It sat for, I'm trying to think how long it was, at least 5 years. And I didn't, about 5 years, and I didn't drive it much. You know, I didn't drive it at all, but I just ran it every once in a while. And then there was a couple of years where I didn't run it. So that was an issue because the batteries went dead. The battery went dead. Had to charge it up. Just got too many other things to do, and got too many cars right now, so I got to get rid of some of them. This one's one of them that I'm eventually going to finish and sell. I just don't want to sell it in the current condition. It'd just be too much hassle. Yeah, a lot of people, oh yeah, I'll give you, I don't want to deal with that. So I want to make it nice, and then just, you know, if you want it, you want it. If you don't, later. That's why I usually deal with stuff. So anyway, we're going to see if we can get it to run better. And then once it's running better, then I'm going to go ahead and change the timing belt. It's rotten. That's the other reason I didn't drive it, because the belt was rotten. So I'm trying to remember reasons why I didn't drive it. It was one of them was the belt was rotten, so I didn't really want to drive it. Didn't have time to change it. Had too many other things. I had my car breaking down. I had a whole bunch of stuff breaking down. So the story on the truck is that it was my daily driver. I used it for doing work stuff, and in I think 2015 this came way down in price. Right before the diesel scandal, I bought this, and this replaced it because it's much more comfortable. I do sometimes 900 a mile or more round trip in one day driving. Sometimes it's not very often, but I do it, and I can do it in this car and be comfortable. In the truck, it was just impossible. So right before the diesel scandal, I found a really good deal on that Jetta, and so I bought that to replace this, because again, this thing is, I'm 6'3". This thing is very uncomfortable for tall people. The seats don't go back far enough. There's some good things about these. This thing got 50 miles a gallon. The other car, maybe it gets 40-ish. Not even that right now because of the diesel scandal stuff they did to it. So this thing gets about 50 miles a gallon. And it doesn't carry any weight. You can't carry any weight in this truck. You know, I mean, a couple 100 pounds maybe in the back, 300 pounds, something like that. I think I had it maxed out. I had maybe 500 in it once for a job I was doing, and drove it all around. And that's when it kind of just, this thing went downhill from there. The lights stopped working. A lot of things just stopped working. And we had to rewire the truck. So it was just completely just useless at that point. I mean, you get in it one day and the headlights would work. Second day you get in it, the brights would work and the headlights didn't. And then it was all from the fuse block. So you can't replace them. You can't buy them new anymore. They're gone in this year. So that's a major issue. So I rewired it. We wired it with a buggy harness. So it's all rewired. So it's not going to be an issue. Literally the time and money that's spent on that was not worth it. But anyway, so the engine that's in here is not a 1.6 liter. And you guys will go, well, it looks a little bit different. And you go, hey, there's a different turbo on it. It has a 1.9 liter. This pump is punched out. I don't know what it's overfueled. And so they did that before I got it. So when I put a turbo on it, it worked really good. So what it is it's a 1.9 naturally aspirated engine, and it has a TDI turbo kit on it. So it has a smaller turbo than what came on these. The turbo that came on these was way too big, and they had a lot of turbo lag. This has no turbo lag at all. So as soon as you step on the gas, it's turbo, it's got boost. So it's really, really fun to drive, other than it being super cramped when you're driving it. So but that's a major issue. I could never drive this truck on an 800-mile round trip, never, or even 400 miles in one day. Plus, the other thing I found is when it does break down, it's like the timing belt's open, cover doesn't fit, a bunch of things like that. When it does break down, parts, you got to order them and just wait. So it's a lot of hassle as far as that goes. So it's, if I broke down up in Northern California or in Arizona where I'm doing work over there, this wouldn't be conducive for what I do. So it just kind of became not usable for me anymore. It's more of just a classic. I have enough classics. I don't need this one anymore. So that's why, going to have to move it after we get it done. So that's the whole story on the truck. And why it kind of got sitting again was because I replaced it with the other car, and then the other car broke down, and I had to spend a lot of time on that and all this other stuff. If you guys know the other videos I've done on that, and it took me like almost a year of working on the other car, changed the engine, all kinds of stuff, transmission. Finally got it all dialed in, and then this was just sitting much longer than it should have. Yeah, if I was going to actually start on this before the bug, the oval window, but the oval window was all in parts and starting to rust and stuff, and I was like, I don't want that to happen. I want to, get that thing sealed up and get some paint on it, and then I'll get on this here. And again, this one sat quite a bit longer. That's why the stuff happened to the windows. It wasn't that bad. So it was actually in really good shape. I did a quick restoration on it in 2011 and turned it into a daily driver and put the 1.9 AAZ engine in it, and all that stuff. If you guys don't know, if you have a 1.6 liter Rabbit, I'm going to tell you, it's absolutely worth it to change to the 1.9. I do tell you why, because I don't know if any of you guys ever, some of you guys go, I don't need AC. Well, I do. So if you have AC, if you want AC in your car and you want it to work properly, the 1.9 is the way to go. Like, you put in a 1.6, you put AC on it, you turn the AC on, it sounds like the engine's going to fall out of the truck. And it just starts shaking like crazy. This one here, you turn on the AC and the engine just stays in the same place. It doesn't even know it's on. So it's really way different. And then driving it with AC on, it has tons of power still. It's just, they're rated very similar. The turbo 1.6 is rated very similar with the power, but this one has a much wider power band, so it's way more drivable. The 1.6 turbo completely sucks compared to the 1.9. The 1.9 has power from idle all the way up to RPMs, all the way through, a lot of power and torque all the way through. Where the 1.6 will have like a power band. You'll hit the gas, and then all of a sudden it hits turbo boost. Turbo boost kicks in, has power, and then it kind of drops off. Yeah, this one's like all power all the time. It's way better to drive. It's just, you can't even compare them. So anyway, you guys haven't driven them both. In fact, even the 1.9 NA, way better than the 1.6 turbo. So anyway, that's the truck. That's what happened. I still got my work truck stuff in it. I've still got, like, I'll take those out. I used to carry ladders on this. I did jobs where I painted ATM surrounds. So I'd take all my stuff, a generator, and put it all in here and take it out to jobs and drive all over California doing them. I mean, I didn't go up to Northern California in this truck. So what was happening is I was using this truck, and when I got my Northern California ones to do, I'd take my regular street car, which at the time was this Jetta here. It gets about 42 miles a gallon. Really good on fuel. This one is better than I wish they made this engine for the Sport Wagon, but they don't. So anyway, I would put all my equipment in there. We took this literally all over California. I mean, I went to Redding area, all over Trying to think of the areas we went to, all over the place. And it was, again, the rabbit just wouldn't do it. So I had to replace it. So like I paint for national sign companies. I'm a painter, but I'm also do non-illuminated sign installation, interiors. So it's a lot of different things I do. So the car works, the station wagon works better because my tools are locked up in the back. This thing was good for a lot of things. I mean, I did a job where we were installing, I did interiors for some real estate company. We used this truck, and it was kind of a pain because the wind blows and all the stuff would blow out of here, so it was not that good for that. But I used it for torching down thermoplastics for drive-thrus. So they have these drive-thrus where they have these plastic things, and you use a torch and you heat them all up, and they melt into the sidewalk. So we did that for National Coffee Place, if you know who they might be. We did a ton of those, and it was horrible. I hate that customer. I'll say it was Starbucks, and I will never, if they ever want me to do something again for Starbucks, I will never do work for them. They do not care about their people who work on their properties. If you work on a Starbucks property and you have to shut down the drive-thru, they make you come back at night. If I go to McDonald's, who has a much busier drive-thru, and if I have to shut down the drive-thru at McDonald's, I've done that. So I come in, hey, we got to shut down the drive-thru for a couple hours. He goes, oh, no problem. Whatever you need. No problem. Whatever you need. Starbucks. Oh no. Managers are there. There's district manager there taking pictures. You know, you can't shut down the drive-thru, even if you're hanging signs over the drive-thru. You know, they're just, to me, Starbucks is I do not go to Starbucks ever. I will not go in one, period, after that job. I will never do it. Yeah, so we did thermoplastics for them. It was always horrible. Had to drive all over place. I was doing 400 miles a night in this truck. And it just, by the end of that, with the lights and the lighting, I mean, it just, nothing worked. I mean, it was like, you never knew one day it just stopped running. I mean, the connections in the fuse block went bad for that. I mean, I literally, one night I had to find a coat hanger or something on the side of the road and connect from here to my, I forget what I used, something like that, and connected the hot wire to the battery so the engine would stay running. Just on that job, it was just so many things were just going wrong with it. It just, by the end of that job, it was done. I couldn't drive it anymore. So it didn't, the Starbucks was a pain in the ass already, and I had to use this truck because there wasn't enough money in it to bring my big truck. And so that's when I used this thing. It would get 50 miles a gallon. So you could literally, you know, what I would save in a night in fuel was basically what I would make, you know, or something like that. It was crazy, the amount of money. It was more profit, you know. So it was worth using this truck. And I couldn't use the car for that because, again, the car, taking that heavy weight, the stuff was pretty heavy. I think it was about 500 pounds. And that was the max of this truck. It was bottomed out. The whole time, the first job we go to, it was full. And I had it, you know, the bed was full of these heavy thermoplastics, and it was up to the top. And we had 5 propanes back here and torches and stuff. And it was bottomed out. So it was, it would pull it fine. The engine has plenty of power. But it's just the sheer weight of that stuff was just too much for the rest of the truck. You know, so these engines are really good for Vanagons. I mean, honestly, I don't know why anybody puts a Subaru in a Vanagon. I mean, I don't understand that. When you can put one of these in, AAZ in there, put air conditioning on it, you can have everything you have, and there's bolt-on parts for all that stuff. You can buy the pan that bolts right onto this engine. It's not like you have to convert everything, because the 1.6 and the 1.9 are the same engine almost, except for this one's about a ½ inch taller. That's it. Basically the same engine. This has turbo pistons from a 1.6 in it. So you can put a turbo on these without even having to modify the engine. They're exactly the same engine for the turbo as the NA. So you can add a turbo to one of these and just get more power. It's free energy on a diesel. So anyway, that's a little background about the truck. So anyway, sorry about if I went too long, but I thought you guys might enjoy some of that. The bad things about Marvel, it doesn't like to start on it. I've ran this already for a little bit. It'll run on it, but I'm gonna have to fire up the glow plugs for it to start. Oh, it's idling. Kind of a normal idle. I had to fire up the glow plugs. They're not working on the switch right now. As soon as I hit full throttle, it kind of doesn't work. See if it runs out of fuel. At least the throttle response is working. Didn't work before. Maybe when it runs the Marvel out, it'll run better. I don't know. It seems like it's definitely running on all 4 cylinders. I almost think the pump's having trouble sucking still, and it's just running out of fuel. One of the guys suggested liquid moly, so got a liquid moly product that I couldn't find at the store when I was there. I know this thing's loud, so it's gonna fall down again, so I'm gonna put it down there. Seems like the idle circuit's working. Smoke's kind of still bad. Well, I'm gonna let it run for a little while, see what happens. So I'll bring you guys back in a minute, so figure it out. It's kind of boring to watch this. Alright, so the old line here was cracked. I guess it wasn't when I started, but probably from the engine vibration. So I just put this on there temporarily. I don't know, that way maybe I can see fuel. I'll order another one. They're not very expensive. And I might have some of this line. I don't know if this is it or not, but I have this line that's fuel proof stuff. You can buy kits. It's not much. I like O'Reilly Auto Parts and stuff like that. Plus I can just put regular rubber hose on there. anyway, we'll do that. Anyway, I got this liquid moly stuff here, and I blew that whole system out again. Blew this whole thing out, took both ends off, blew it out with air, and so maybe that will help a little bit. Still did smell some Marvin Mist Oil in there, so I don't know. Maybe it's still having difficulty. I'll fill up this thing, the fuel filter, with this stuff, and fill this thing up with it. It's kind of thin. I don't know, I'm sure it'll probably work. A little bit probably hard on the engine, but I mean, this thing's pretty tough. It should be able to handle it, no problem. And then we'll try it. I'll let you know in a few hours. Probably let it sit overnight, maybe with that in it. And I mean, the Marvel really did a good job overnight, guys. I mean, it's really, well, it's still a little slow returning. Maybe that happened after I just blew it out, because it wasn't like that. So anyway, we'll just fill it up with this and see what happens. All right, well, let's see. I got this Mighty Vac hooked up here. It had some issues when I first hooked it up, and anyway, I've got it to work now. Let's put some vacuum to this, and let's just see if any diesel comes up. Yep. So I'm thinking, looks like it's bringing it up pretty good. I thought maybe we'd had a problem around the filter, but it's sucking it up pretty good, so that's not an issue. It's able to bring it up. So the issue's got to be still everything's inside the pump. The pump is not bringing the fuel up. So I mean, I've got a couple options. I do have another pump, like I said. I've got an adenoid pump, but if you can see, it's a lot of work to change it. And then it's I gotta have the belt off anyway, but changing the pump's a pain in the ass. And the one I have, I don't know if it's, I don't know. I could take the top off this one and clean it too. That's another thing that can be done. I don't know. I don't know if I can do that while it's in the car. I don't remember. And then this one. Yeah, and I know the fuel's turned up on this too, so it's got, like, if you can see, the idle thing is missing. So if you can see here, and when you start turning up the fuel, what happens is the idle starts going up, and then you lower the idle, then you turn up the fuel a little more, and you lower the idle, and you turn the fuel until they're at this point right here where there's no idle adjustment. That's like all the way up. The fuel's turned all the way up. And there's something inside you have to do to the pump to get it to do that. I forget what. It's been a long time since I had one of these apart. But this is the fuel screw here. So I think I mean, really, like a quarter of a turn will change it huge. And you got to be careful when you're doing a fuel adjustment. So if you're trying to crank up the fuel on one of these, you got to be have that idle loose, because it'll get run away. It'll take off on you. So you start taking the idle out little by little. You start taking the fuel screw out. You go like a 16th or 8th of a turn or whatever, and all of a sudden it starts raising the engine RPMs, and then you start having to lower the RPMs on the idle, and you take it a little bit more, and you lower the RPMs in the idle. You keep doing that, and that's how you're able to get the fuel turned up, and then the ratio of it's turned up all the way through. So yeah, that's kind of how it works if you ever wanted to turn it up. But you also have to, there's something inside the pump you have to change, and I forget what it is. There's something in there, because if you just turn this normally, it won't do anything. Well, I wouldn't just assume that, but it may not do anything if you just do that alone, until you do something inside the pump that changes. I forget what it is. There's like something in there to make sure that you don't change the fuel. They don't want you to do that. So anyway, it's a little tricky, but this one's already been turned up. That's why this is, the idle's way down here, and it's idling kind of fast, so it's turned way up. So anyway, that's why this thing really, with this stock pump, it gets up and goes. It's like, but with the adenoid pump, it even has when you floor it, it has this thing that senses boost, and as it gets more boost, then it starts to drop more fuel. So it even has more than what this does. So the adenoid pump that comes, you can put on these, man, you can really make some horsepower out of one of these things if you do that. So I was going to do that and then even turn that up some, but anyway, I was going to have it so when you floor it, it just gives you everything. You know, I was going to narrow the rods. I had a whole thing figured out at one point on this thing, and I don't remember any of it now. So it's been that long. So anyway, issues in the pump still. It's not here. We know that. I'll talk to you guys about that a bit later. All right, let me show you guys where we're at now. Let's see if you guys can check this out. Hopefully it starts right up. I started it up about 20 minutes ago. Let me warm the injectors again and I'll do it again. All right, so as you can hear, it's running on all 4 cylinders. The throttle response is working again. It didn't for a while there when we started. But what's going on now is the high pressure side seems to be working fine on the injection pump. So there's 2 different sides. So like there's a rotor that goes around in a circle like this on this side of the pump that the 4 lines are connected to. And as that goes around, it just basically lets fuel out as it goes past each one of these injector lines. And then if you look at how these are all bent different like that, that is the firing order, because it just basically, it's like a rotor and a distributor. It just goes around in one circle, right? So it goes around, and then the lines determine the fire order like your spark plug wires do. And so that side of it, the high pressure side is working. So what there is there's 2 different pumps in here. There's a lift pump on this side. So I had to kind of, you know, do a little bit of research on some of this stuff. There's a lift pump on this side of the pump, and it brings the fuel in to the chamber, and then the chamber fills up with fuel. And once the chamber's full of fuel, then it starts to bring it into the high pressure side pump, which is over here on this side. And then that seems to be working because it's getting high pressure to all the injectors, but it may be starving them a little bit. That's why it's not revving up very high. So but that side of the pump seems to be pretty clear. But what we've got an issue with is on the lift pump side, and the lift pump is kind of different. I'll show you how it works. So what it's like is it's like a disc like this on a shaft inside there. And it has these little cutouts in it. And these are what they are, slides. And the slides, as the engine runs or turns over, the slides slide out and go against this. It's an offset circle. And they slide out and rub against that, and what it does is as it gets smaller, it builds pressure up. So it like the inlet is up here. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. It's up here and the outlet's over here. And as those slides do that, it builds pressure to shoot out of here. So this would be the low side and the high side pressure. So that kind of it's not really a high pressure pump, but it's a high volume pump. So that's kind of how the high volume fuel pumps are on race cars and stuff like that too. So these little, it just goes around like that and just brings the fuel in through that. And that's how that works. But I think what's happening is these slides are stuck because it's not bringing any fuel in. So these slides are stuck somewhere in that rotor and not able to get out. But to get to them, I have to take the whole injector pump apart. So that's what the issue is. So anyway, I've tried several additives. I've got right now, I used up all the liquid moly diesel injector cleaner. They have another one called Diesel Purge, which I've ordered now, and I'm going to try that. And like I said, see, it's just sitting here. I fill it up with whatever I've got, different stuff. I've been using this right now because I ran out of the other one, the injector cleaner, which that really worked pretty good, and it's obviously running now. But those slides are just stuck in there, and I don't know. You know, it's a large job to take this thing, not just to take it out, but to take it apart. There's a lot of intricate parts in it, and it's really easy to mess that thing up and not get it right. So I prefer, if I can, just trying to use additives. So anyway, I've got that in there now. And I let it set for a whole week with the other one in it, and it started to run a lot better. So what I'm going to probably do is tomorrow, in a couple of days, I'll get the Diesel Purge, and I'm going to try that just straight. Just pour that in here and just let it set and see if it loosens up those slides in there. Like I said, if to get to them, you have to go take apart all the entire pump, all the way to basically take off the pulley, pick off the pulley here, and there's a little hub behind that. I think, if I remember right, I can't remember. I think maybe there isn't, but you have to take that whole thing out and then basically get down to where it's just the shaft, and then that's at the very end of the pump. So unfortunately, to get to it, you have to, and there's a lot of intricate parts in here. Like there's a rotor, and it's just difficult to get back together. So I prefer not taking it apart. I might do the other pump. I have another pump, and I might do that one just to see, because like the top part comes off. It's been a long time since I had one of these apart. The top part comes off, and there's like a spring for the governor. You have to weasel your way in there and get it hooked on there and just right, and then put it in. It's really kind of tough to get apart. So I'm going to try additive one more time before I decide to do that. So I'm going to try the Diesel Purge in here now, but it'll be a couple days before it gets here. So I'm just going to let it just soak again. And the other one I have, I'm out of the other liquid moly. So anyway, those liquid moly products are probably the best. Some of the guys, one of the YouTube guys who watches the channel suggested getting the Purge. He says it really is really strong. So let's see if that works, and then we'll find out. But for now, I think we're just going to have to let it set, just let it set with this. It's kind of a drag because I really need this lift for something else. I got other jobs I got other stuff to do all the time. I got oil changes, and I have so much stuff. People go, "Oh, clean your shop." It's like, that's like, it happens when, when I have some time, and I don't have any, and I haven't had any for years, actually. And it's just been awful. As soon as I sell off some cars, then it'll be all right. But anyway, can't do that when they don't run right. So anyway, this one seems to be coming around though. That thing's working now when it wasn't before at all. It was kind of stuck, and so it's getting closer. Let's hope it does it. I wasn't expecting it to take this much effort to get running, but it's been taking some time. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'll just stop this video here, and then we'll just we'll come back in a couple days and take a look. I mean, it'll probably be next week. So because I'm going to go to the buses by the bridge this weekend. You guys watching the channel, you'll get to see that. I've already got my stuff already set up for that, and we'll get back on this when I get back. But hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in there before I go. I've been gone out of the state for a few days now. So I'm going to put that stuff in there, and I let that other stuff sit in here for almost a week, and it did improve quite a bit. So I'm hoping if I let that diesel purge in here over the next weekend, then it'll start up and the lift pump will start working again. Be lucky if that happens. So I'll talk to you later. Talk to you in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe.